So, the Hasidic literature is very beautiful in portraying I actually brought some examples, but in portraying the idea of these Matot, of these 42 stations of the journey through the desert, plus the 7 backstepping, so it goes out to 49, both of which are important numbers, as being paralleling each and every individual's existential journey.
Yeah.
So as the Baal Shem Tov's words are, from the womb to the grave. These 42 journeys are essentially the steps along the way. And the 42, of course, is the mathematical equivalent to one of the names of God. So it's kind of a significant number. And of course 49, 7 times 7, so mystically that's the totality of God's journey, so to speak, the steps along the way. So the Ishbitzer points out, why is these two sections put together? Why do we always link Matot and Masei? Why don't we link it to the parsha before? Why do we do it differently? Just because the uniqueness of this parasha is that it is a set of transient mitzvahs. They're not standard mitzvahs. It is in fact an anti-command to do vows, right? You know, the whole Gemara Chulin spends a lot of time saying, well, you shouldn't do vows. They're not likely taken. You shouldn't. You know, those who grew up in the yeshiva world know that anytime you say, I'm going to do something, you're supposed to say, bli neder.
Right.
Like, it's becomes sort of a joke when you're a kid, but it comes out of a seriousness.
Bli neder means no vow.
Right. Like, so you have to, like, if you're going to commit to do something, you know, I'll come to your house, you know, after school, bli neder. Like, you know, to not inadvertently vow. So it's a very I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. It's not a standard mitzvah. It's a very it's
particular,
almost an accidental mitzvah. It's something that it's even less a divorce is only if it's needed, right? So this is even less than that. Like, this is a very contingent kind of commandment, and yet, you know, it gets wrapped up in all of these secrets and all this. So the Ishbitzer says that the connection between these two parashiot is that the whole idea of these vows are in our paths, in our way along, in our journey through life, which is again symbolized through these words that become symbolic of the stages in our journey, when we should need to face challenges. Then it is with the word that we approach it. So this section of vows is meant to be a recourse in emergency use, you know, break this glass kind of mitzvah for the challenges that we face along the way. Fair enough?
Why do so many people who study the Ishbitzer get into sexual trouble?
No, wait.
That
is so unfair. I think that's not look. Wait a minute. I'm going to stand up for Polish Hasidut here.
You don't have to. Go ahead. Say anything you want.
I was around those circles. You know. I know. Look. There was one guy who made the Ishbitzer popular in certain circles that you have some acquaintance with.
Yeah. So it's not a general truth that people who specialize in the Ishbitzer get into sexual trouble.
Look, the Ishbitzer was an important part of Polish Hasidut. You see, I don't come from that lineage, so I grew up in Polish Hasidut. I was raised above, in the Bubov community, and my family all wear streimels and all that kind of stuff. So to me, it was an important work that links down along the route of Kotsk, and so he was Rav Tzadok Cohen Milublin's teacher. He was the man who made Rav Tzadok go from being a Litvak to being a Chassid. A very interesting set of stories, and we mentioned Rav Tzadok in that little communication we had about vegetarianism.
Yeah.
So he was a vegetarian. So in the wilder, I guess you might call it, in the wilder-eyed hermeneutics world, so the most extreme set of readings are in that lineage. So it's in a classic work. Now, Carlebach was a fan of the Ishbitzer. And
is there any connection between the Ishbitzer and sexual excess?
No, quite the opposite. People who were fans of Carlebach or tried to look. So certain people, I know who you're referring to, because Carlebach used the Ishbitzer as a way of hitting on girls. I'll teach you Ishbitzer. Right. So, you know, I suppose it's much like this business with the vows, and it comes back to the Parsha. There's a concept in Judaism that the holier something is, the more dangerous it is. And taking God's name is a pretty serious matter in a Torah perspective. There is no. I mean, let me just say this right now. There is nothing in the Ishbitzer that would. In fact, it's quite the opposite. One would not find those kind of tendencies in the. That was an extremely ascetic group of individuals. As you know, they had many of the leaders in that community had a tendency to lock themselves away for long periods of time, and such things. So
I think the Vilna Gaon said it was more important to study Talmud than to talk to your children. So there's this extremist devotion to study and to piety that is almost inhuman among.
Well, you can't draw from the Gra on these. The Gra is, of course.
Totally opposed to the Hasidic, but you're talking again about extreme levels of devotion.
But there was one place where there would be a congruence between the Gra and what we're saying now, and that the Gra believed that nothing was arbitrary and everything was true all the way through. So every word in Torah was true, and there was nothing that was contradictory or that led to. Particularly, he said that there's no contradiction between any halachic rulings and truth and mysticism, which he equated with truth, almost to mathematical truth. So, an extreme rigorous belief in the power of the word and all its reflections and everything that the word gives off and everything that the word contains in every possible reading is kind of where it's at.
I'm a big fan of this professor of modern Jewish thought, Mark B. Shapiro.
Oh yeah,
and
an old friend.
Wow, like I'm more interested in this guy's thinking than any other Jewish thinkers.
Well, you should have come to, if you had been sitting around in Yakar, in the Shul in Jerusalem, back in the glory days of the late 90s, you could have sat in on Shabbat and hear us, that whole gang, him and a number of other professors and other people in Jewish studies, and sit around and talk during davening.
Wow.
And man, was that good talking during davening.
Wow.
Ever since I've left there and I've come here, I've been in true exile.
How long?
Exile of the word.
How long were you in Yerushalayim?
Oh, I was there from '95 till 2002.
And when did you meet Mark Shapiro?
Oh, he was there along the way.
He is so smart. And the other thing is, it's not just he's so smart, because there are a lot of really smart people, but he's smart and he's got a lot of common sense. And he's got like a grounding in like secular scientific approach and in Torah.
Well, I'm a big fan of that, of course, as you know. But I think, truth is truth. And if something is true, it stands to rigorous examination. I mean, that if you've read my shiurim, I kind of try to do this parallelism between contemporary philosophy and Hasidic hermeneutics. And I never find it to be a problem. If anything, I find a lot of the stuff that these guys are saying is so far ahead of their time.
And the word hermeneutics means